We're on to talk about hemp. And our first guest, the one and only Everett Swift. Steve. Steve, we had Steve first. Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Let me get Everett on. I know Everett. Sorry, I missed you there. Welcome to the show, Everett.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I wanted to start with Everett. I know you've been since I met you many years ago, and involved with the medical cannabis movement in Michigan. I know you've been a firm, outspoken advocate for hemp, and I know you've been advocating this in advocating and lobbying, and this has got to be an exciting moment for you to have this shift in change and have a legislative support, and also the federal farm bill to allow for this. What are you feeling like right now in this period of enlightenment, I would say?
It's great news. It's been a hard track Michigan has. We've been working to educate the legislature and the people for a long time. So having two bills that actually look like they have a chance of going somewhere in the legislature is really great.
Let me ask you this more from, and maybe you know, maybe you don't. The reason why this is taking place right now, and then help me explain to the listeners, you're the expert, is because of the Congressional Hemp Farming Bill, which allows for scientific research relative to the farming of hemp and hemp products. Am I right about that?
Yes. The bill Michigan is proposing is for a research bill, unlike some of the other states like Kentucky are full-out farming bills. So we still got a long way to go to get the farmers to be able to grow it, but I think we're a lot closer now, especially with the federal government and the farm bill allowing it for research purposes. So now we just got to be able to, get the law passed, and once it's passed, act on it, get a research program going here in the state.
Well, the way that I've kind of described it, just the meaningfulness of it, if you really step back and look at it from 10,000 feet, is that what Congress did with the hemp farm bill is what the medical cannabis community has been, screaming for and crying for and lobbying for and legislating for, just to let some research take place about it, right? And while there's the obvious trending topics that we talk about every single week, obviously medical marijuana and marijuana reform has been, in the media like never before, helping change the minds of a lot of people. This act by the federal government it's like a gigantic step away from the starting line from where medical cannabis and marijuana legalization in general is. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. If you look at the numbers now, as far as more people supporting full-out legalization, there's been a dramatic shift in recent years, and industrial hemp, for us, it's been really difficult to educate people the difference starting out, and get the legislature. When I first started doing this, the medical marijuana law, petition came out in Michigan, and for a while there, it was real hard to get our voices heard on the industrial hemp side of it, because a lot of times you talk to legislators and they would immediately respond with medical marijuana or marijuana legalization. So it's been a kind of a double-edged sword for our organization in that respect.
And, of course, only because of the way of the pollinate outside the medical marijuana and caregivers alike, it's not good for those plants, but that's not the topic of our conversation. I think what is more important is this. Explain to our listeners. I mean, I've somewhat understand. I want to hear from you, though, in terms of what are the variables that are needed to, plant and harvest the plant and whatever the valuables are, and you can explain those. And then what kind of processing or manufacturing, what's the, level of sophistication or not to be able to produce some of the goods that we know the plant can produce. Take us through that a little bit in terms of, harvesting, and then the various ways in which you make rope, or you might make oil for a biofuel, or how it's used in with home building now, and in vehicles. I understand the BMW now is using hemp material in their doors of their cars. But tell us start from the farmer's side and take us up into the manufacturers.
Okay. Well, if you look at how marijuana and industrial hemp are grown, if you plant marijuana, they figure 46 seeds per acre. For industrial hemp, you want it's like 90 pounds of seed per acre. So you got a real densely populated crop. You don't use a lot of pesticides, maybe some nitrogen fertilizer to get it started out. And if you have a good season, that's pretty much it until it's ready to harvest. You can use bale it, you cut it, depends on what kind of crop you've grown. It's like you have one variety that's good for seed stock, another variety that's good for fibers, or the herd, which is the woody core of it, for making stuff like concrete, building materials, animal bedding, stuff like that. In the old days, you had to what they called red it, let it lay in the field, and let the fiber and the core separate and flip it over. It was a very labor intensive. Now with technology the way it is, they just bust it up to separate it that way. You'd go to a processing plant, and where you could seed is cold pressed. You can buy equipment that's readily available for cold pressing the seed if you want to make for food, oil, stuff like that. The fiber, pretty much everything. Infrastructure exists for that. There's so many different ways and things you can do with it. You've mentioned automobiles. They make fiberglass. It's better than fiberglass composites with industrial hemp. And plastics now, there's been a lot of advances in that technology lately. Building materials, you can use the fiber, the herd of the stock. And concrete's very simple to make, and there's a lot of technology advances being made in the building material aspect of it as well. So there's so many different areas that it could be used in, and infrastructure is available in our country to do it. Some equipment might take a little bit of modification, but other than that, it's not too hard to do.
What I find is interesting is that I know that it seems to be associated with medical marijuana reform. I know that Colorado's got a program where they're growing right now and actually producing some, food products and other things, I understand. But there's a lot of other states that have state hemp bills that are not medical marijuana or marijuana reform, that they are understood to be crops that are cash crops that have multiple uses, and their communities are hurt because they're not able to grow it. And if given the opportunity, they are looking for an opportunity to, plant these seeds and use this crop, if not for their own personal use within their family or community, at least to potentially compete with the marketplace in the United States. Let's talk about that a little bit. Well, first of all, would you agree with that? Like, there's, from a farmer's perspective, it's well known that this is a crop that should be grown and has been in the history of farming and farming families.
It certainly is with my farming views. To me, it's ridiculous that in over 30 countries around the world we can't grow this crop, or they can grow this crop, and they're having no problems with law enforcement confusion over marijuana and industrial hemp. But here in the United States, we can't grow it, and that one of the biggest arguments is, well, it could be confused with marijuana. I don't buy the argument, but the confusion argument with the way the crops are grown differently, different, variables in crops and stuff like that, that there could be no confusion. You can't hide a marijuana. You wouldn't want to hide marijuana in a hemp crop because of cross-pollination, and likewise in a hemp crop, it would degrade yours as well. So you wouldn't want marijuana in your hemp crop as well.
Everett, let me ask you to just hold tight real quick. I think we have a special guest, Representative Kevin Daly, in the queue here. So bear with us, gentlemen. Representative, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for calling in, and really what could be described as a very historic period here in Michigan. For those that don't know, joining us now is Representative Daly. Was elected to the Michigan House in November of 2009 and represents Lapeer County. And you're serving on the chair of the House and Agricultural Committee. One thing that I noticed in your bio, which I want to kind of ask you about, is you come from a family of farmers and you've been a farmer yourself.
Absolutely, and I still do. I've been an active farmer my entire life. When I first was elected to the House of Representatives and came on board in 2009, believe it or not, I was the only, what I consider to be active farmer, the only guy that made his living off of agriculture in the State House. So it was a lot of educating and a lot of work going on to educate people about agriculture. And now, 5 years later now, we've got a lot more ag-related folks on board, and so we've got a lot better ag-educated people than we had 5 years ago.
Well, let me ask you this. Coming from a farming family, I don't know how long, your family's been farming for, if it had a period of time prior to, prohibition of marijuana and hemp, or maybe they were even around during the, hemp for victory phase of the, when the, government was. Is it a no? I mean, would you say that amongst the farming community, I'm talking, farmers, people that grow crops that, produce things that are needed or can be sold, they know that hemp is a cash crop. It's well known. Is that a fair statement?
Well, yes and no. And, to answer your first question, yeah, my family's been in the ag business. We've been on our farm for 131 years, since 1881. So my kids are the fifth generation to be on that operation. But, I think you've gone through a couple of generations of ag people. It's kind of the joke whenever you start talking about industrial hemp. Of course, they relate it to marijuana, and I think that's a combination of what I've seen and learned about so far about industrial hemp is just a misgiven because of the way the government's treated the crop for many years.
Is it possible that hemp has been grown on your farm, in years past, pre?
That's a really good question, and I really couldn't answer that. I know that potatoes were grown. Of course, my Daily name, we were O'Daly's, came from Ireland when the potato famine, so I know potatoes were grown there. I've never heard that there was hemp grown there. I know Henry Ford did a lot of work with hemp down in the Detroit area and in Oakland County. Of course, we're right in the center of Lapeer County, so I can't say that there was ever hemp grown on our property. But, we had the hearings, just informational hearings, and we had a couple of guys, Everett Swift and Steve, and I'm drawing a blank on Steve's last name, but came in and
Steve
Steve's
Sharpe.
on here now, is he? Or?
Yeah, Steve and Everett are on the calls right now with you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, and they came in and they did a real good job of explaining what the crop is. We're hoping that by introducing these getting them out there, we can get some more of the industrial hemp users from around the United States that buy this product from a different country, from Canada normally, bring it over here that we can get them to come in and give some testimony about what the options really are going forward with this. If we can get the research done at one of the universities in our state, part of the problem we've had is getting that approval from the federal government, because I'm a constitutional guy that believes in the Constitution, and I take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and it's been illegal for us to even do any type of research on industrial hemp or and of any kind in our state. So with the new Farm Bill, it gave us the ability to do this research, and I think that's real important to get that research done and get the word out there that this is possibly a viable crop for our state. From what Steve and Everett explained at the meeting, it grows in more some of the poorer ground that you can't grow good corn and good soybeans on, and so I think there's some options there, and if we can get this research done at one of the universities, maybe we can find out more what we can do with it.
Well, let me ask you a couple of these things. First of all, the bill from the Fed Farming Bill allows for who have laws or enact laws relative to research regarding hemp and hemp farming. The bills that you're introducing, what is and there may be other bills, I would think, and that may even be influenced by additional federal bills, but these, as they stand, they seem to have to be under the umbrella of research and scientific research. If it goes the way you want to, the intent of these bills would allow for what? Like, would it be?
Well, I would hope that that the federal government would come on board. I don't think that industrial hemp should be included as a Schedule I narcotic. I think it should be reduced. Some of the concerns that in talking to some of our local police officers over the last few years, and I've been talking about this now for 3 or 4 years, and kind of looking at different ways that we could look at this, the opportunities we have with industrial hemp, and talking to some of actually our local sheriff in Lapeer County in particular told me that one of the issues that they have is the fact that and hemp from the days of growing hemp, they had ditchweed, I guess they call it, was where the seed would just grow in the ditches. And he said, we've got it growing in areas still around Lapeer County in the ditch, and we can't tell the difference between that and marijuana. And the naked eye may not be able to tell the difference, and maybe that's why the law enforcement's concerned about it. But from what I learned at our committee hearing, and I think you guys were talking about it just before I came on the air, that you can't, the actual hemp growing will not properly with marijuana, which would deem marijuana not useful as a hallucinogen or whatever. So
that's right.
There could be some proof that comes out through this process that's true and be proven and be able to move ahead with this project as we go forward.
I would think that there's a certain level of education, if really done properly, that issue would shouldn't be a barrier. I mean, Like, I think it's and we've heard, and I think that's one of the critical talking points of distinguishing the two in an understanding of what they do, and of course the visual of it, or who knows? I think the concerns that one might have as a farmer of hemp are, and what they may allow somebody to inspect or not inspect, or who would be regulated. Maybe it's a agricultural department or something like that when it's all said and done. But moving on, beside that, I mean, what are the limitations that the Federal Farm Act allow any state legislation to do? And if you had it your way, what would this bill in its final form, like, could I, for example, start doing some research on hemp if I wanted to hire a couple scientists and come in and open a indoor or an outdoor a greenhouse and grow year round and manufacture some food products? And
the way the bill is drafted in its current form, no, and I think it's pretty clear at at the federal level too, that they've approved this for universities only. So at the current time, and but you've got to start somewhere. You've got to begin the process at some point, and this is I think a step in the right direction. If we can get this research done at the university level, then the next step would be possibly to expand it out and to allow some others to do that. But at this point in time, no, that's not what the bill says. The bill says only at universities, and that's what's allowed under the federal law at this point in time.
And then you would say... go ahead.
The federal farm bill also allows state agriculture departments to do research as well. But from what I see in the Michigan bill, Mr. Daly is correct that the Michigan bill does not allow, it only allows universities.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a discussion that we'll have in the committee hearings. If there's interest out there and the department is interested in that, that's something we can always look at. That's where the process comes in of the committee process, and people come in and give testimony. So as we move forward with this legislation and have some committee hearings, we'll find out what the options are going forward.
Exactly.
Assuming that there aren't
concerns. Good evening. This is Steve Sharpe, Representative Daly.
I'm sorry, Steve, on your last name. I was drawing a blank there for a second, but
yeah, no problem on that. There was something that I was reading yesterday. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is looking to boost imports of hemp seed from the Ukraine, hoping this will help the country's battered economy. So at this point in time, if we do get these bills pushed through in that, and if the federal government is looking to help the Ukraine by purchasing this stuff, is there a way that Michigan can benefit from that by getting it from the federal government and doing the research with that product here in Michigan?
Well, I would certainly think so.
Let me ask you this: do you think that? Go ahead.
Because it's saying here that the Ukraine is the fourth largest hemp producer in the world, and it's currently angling for the aid from the International Monetary Fund as much as $20 billion. So, I mean, there is quite a lot of money involved in this product now. When you start looking at it of wanting to bail the Ukraine out, and they're looking at $20 billion on this.
Right. Well, and my goal and my position in the Michigan House and as chair of the House Ag Committee has always been to look for different ways to, and we've done a good job the last 4 or 5 years, and the governor has been a strong supporter of agriculture. We want to grow this agriculture industry in our state. There's chances for a lot more processing facilities, and obviously a lot of things that were brought to us by Steve and Everett in the committee hearing. The construction products that we'll be able to make, the clothing, those type of things. Obviously, the rope, those products, all the different products that you can make with hemp, and then also the products. As we've got Laura Noble, a resident of my county, as a matter of fact, that does the hemp seeds, the edible portions of it, makes the pancake mixes and these type of products. So there's obviously a lot of opportunities there, and I think by getting this research going, that and that's an interesting fact. I hadn't heard or seen that yet, that they're talking about importing from the Ukraine. So that means there's a use for that product here, and that certainly gives us a reason to look for the opportunities we have in trying to make it work here.
Yeah, I appreciate all the help that you gave me and Everett. It has been a long road with us.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of educating that needs to be done amongst the legislators, and we've got our work cut out for us there yet, because there is still that we've got a whole couple of generations here that really look at hemp and its tie as marijuana, and we've got to help them understand that that's not the situation here, and we're trying to grow a product that's good for our economy and good for agriculture in our state. So that's what we're looking forward to doing. And unless you guys, I've got to get off the phone here rather quickly, but
I'm going to ask you
answer any more questions.
A couple quick questions. Do you think that in order to take it beyond, so you would agree then to take it beyond the university research, the federal government would have to act again and do something in addition, allowing for wider, a type of behavior of a manufacturing or growing it per se. You'd agree with that, right?
Well, absolutely, but we'll be one step ahead of the rest if we've got the research done and we've got something ready to roll, and maybe we can get some of the local congressmen from Michigan to see the advantages of moving forward. If we can get this research going in our state to get the support we need at the federal level to get some changes made, so that this product can be something that we can start building factories and employing people and manufacturing through hemp. So.
Well, that was the last question that I was going to say. We had not really talked about in something that is not talked enough about, of creating jobs in Michigan and really creating a new economy potential. I mean, you're talking farming. I think about all the urban communities with all the buildings that were once, the grandest of grandest manufacturing, and were the hub of the Industrial Revolution, and letting them have be part of this in producing products and competing in this $13 billion industry that is going on, that we import from other countries that are growing it. But I think that this is a historic moment in Michigan, and I can't thank you enough for your interest, involvement, and real honest look at this. And I look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to working at it. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Mr. Daly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What a great guy.
Fantastic. It really is. I think it's historic. I mean, we didn't even really talk about that. Just, of course, we're in the, beginning phases. But, Everett, you made a good point. Explain what you meant, because this bill, as it stands right now, allows for only university research. If it was agricultural research, it would then allow anyone to grow it. Am I right?
That's like Kentucky.
Well, they could get licenses or something, right? They'd be able to.
Well, the State Department of Agriculture would do research then. It wouldn't be at a university level, but it would be at a state government level. I mean, Everett, please disabuse us. What's the story on that?
Well, yeah, that's the way Kentucky's looking at the law, is what they're going to do, because they do have licensing schemes set up in their state. Is their state agriculture department can research it in that way, allow a farmer to grow it, allow business to research it, from my understanding. So,
right.
Having that scheme set up would be the way to go, in my perspective.
Would you say that again? Having a what set up?
I said having the scheme with the agriculture department,
yes,
would be the way to go, in my perspective. But that seems to me like the way Kentucky and a few other states are going to do it.
Because to really do the research, you want to have it. It's got to be just beyond grown in perfect conditions in a laboratory. You want to be able to, contemplate in
the field.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you want to see how it's going to grow in soils and stuff like, in the seasons, growing seasons, stuff like that. You want to do actual farm growing, I would think, research too.
Even like pilot, like maybe pilot farming or whatever, where they actually, I don't know, there's all different ways to cut it, but your position would be that there's some, because of the way the hemp farm bill is written and the way other states have drafted or have existing legislation regarding the way that they're going to implement their research, quote unquote, by using their agricultural department, allows for actually more, other than university types of involvement with hemp. That's kind of would be a lobby point issue, right?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you agree that, so is this just going to be the biggest tease that ever took place? Because theoretically, if I'm understanding this, even after the research and, it's still up to the federal government to do what? Grant federal licenses to sell, distribute, grow cannabis, or will it be at the state level? Or
just release it.
Like pass one of the two bills that are in the House and Senate and the federal level now. It separates industrial hemp from marijuana and allows states to regulate industrial hemp on their own without federal involvement.
Where's Everett?
If one of those two were to pass and get signed by the president, then it would allow state regulation.
That would be outstanding. I mean, it tells you that we really need to grow hemp in every single university in the state just to make sure how it behaves at every geographic location across the entire state.
I say instead we try to...
Plus you have to grow it in some of the waste areas that we have bad contaminated soils, because it's a soil remediator. And this is what the schools need to do if they're not going to be able to use this product as an industrial product and they're only going to be testing it for the growing purposes. You want to see what it's actually going to be doing to the soil. So if they've used it in Fukushima and they've used it in Chernobyl to clean up radioactive soil, we need to find some of these places in Michigan and have the universities be growing there and testing this.
Yeah, we
clean
need
up our ground at the same time.
Yeah, different variety of growing soils and stuff. Like Steve mentioned, they've been using it for ground cleanup for ages in different areas.
Do you think at the end of the
ground
day...
reclamation.
Do you think at the end of the day this is the type of crop that will be intended or competed for like the almighty cannabis will be? You know, in other words, is this the type of crop that will become corporately grown? Will you see large corporations coming in and, buying up properties and knocking down homes and building gigantic, is that the kind of, is there a competition for that, do you think, in the future?
Yeah, Nebraska has just passed their laws, I do believe. I read something about that today or yesterday. So Nebraska is a very corporate state as far as farming, I believe. So they're going after it big time.
Yeah. I'm just wondering...
It is a grain.
Right. I just see it always seemed to me to be the farmer's crop, the crop of and so much potential, but it doesn't mean that it can't be fought for and monopolized like others that are being challenged. Everett,
especially if they get into GMOs. Hemp industry, most advocates I know want to stay away from any type of GMO. And I have heard talk about changing the color of it or something to tell the difference. And I think that would put us at a disadvantage for a non-GMO hemp crop if we did something like that.
Everett, explain a little bit, the representative had mentioned taking testimony from some of the other hemp industries that existed, and he referenced Canada. Explain how they're doing. I mean, I was right in the numbers. $10 to $13 billion is the market approximately in the United States of purchased goods and foods made of hemp that's either imported from Canada or China. I think is the other major supplier. But what would Canadians say when they come over to testify? Would they be promoting it? I mean, in other words, is their system, is it a single farmer production type of industry, or where multiple farmers are contributing to it, or is it done in a more centralized commercial way?
From what I know about most of the Canadian companies up there, they contract with individual farmers to grow their crops for them. I even have some videos of them, commercials for hemp farming for individual farmers. So I think that's probably the way they would promote it.
Okay.
How tall do the hemp plants get up there?
I've seen, from what I've seen, I haven't been in one up there, but anywhere, depends on the variety, what it's grown for. Seed's a little shorter, probably about 6 to 12 feet for the fiber crops. Most of Canada is grown for seed
For food, that equates to food products?
Yeah, they're more into the food and hemp oil, seed oil, stuff like that, where China is into more textiles. European, you're looking at a lot of more advanced stuff like the hemp body composites, building materials, stuff like that. Canada's got a hemp car that they're developing for a while, a little electric car called the Presto. And so they're getting in, so they're getting a little more advanced in Canada now for hemp production as well, or technologies rather.
Well, when with Canada, I mean, so they're primarily the food product, and that's the industry that is most that's most demand. Would you agree with that? Like it's more food and oils, and like you said, like that's the market that, and it is they are healthier foods, and because of the import, it costs more. I mean, in other words, whatever health benefits come from the plant in the form that it's being made into, seeds, milk, like hemp milk, has a best ratio of omega-3 to 6, right? And all different types. I mean, and it becomes more expensive because of that, and the health benefits from these products, become less attainable by, the people that don't have money. They're cut off from potential healthy foods. I mean, is any of that part of the pitch here? Does that come into play? I mean, what about the idea of people able to like farm for themselves? I mean, the people could probably live off of the plant itself as a sole crop. Is that possible?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, definitely. The importation cost raises the cost, prohibitively high on a lot of stuff, especially food products. Most people would love to use the stuff but just can't afford to, compared to, locally grown crops or products. And I believe it, like building materials, especially if you can build a house a lot cheaper with hemp grown when you don't have to pay the tax and import fees to get it across from overseas. So I think that does play into it very big.
And the housing is such a greener product compared to what is being built today with the paints and the drywalls and the toxins and everything that is just in the air that we're living in.
Exactly.
And that's part of that Bringing It Home movie, showing how healthy the houses are.
I mean, I feel like there is a much. There are some factors that I think you can step back from and describe that are unequivocally vastly different than where medical marijuana and marijuana legalization is. Number one is that the federal government is allowing for quote-unquote research, and it's moving in that direction. And there's another bill pending to allow for actual state-regulated farming. So you got the one thing that the medical cannabis community has been crying for, fighting for, and should get unquestionably, because they know that it's medicine and they know it, and they're lying and everybody knows it, but they're not letting it happen. But here goes hemp into a new area with a lot of potential. Secondly, the individuals, and especially involved with like Representative Daley. I know he was with. He showed up at that event supporting Jeff Irwin. Was that a legalization? Graham, was it Jamie?
I'm not sure which event you're talking about. The Wild Game fundraiser.
Yeah, what was that for?
Okay, yeah, that was. We were there actually discussing with local governments about not being more restrictive than state law, and he did show up and he spoke there, and we discussed medical marijuana, industrial hemp with them a little bit.
Right. Well, the only reason why I was mentioning is that the other persons that have been involved with medical marijuana reform in government were not on this scene, And as Steve described, and I've told many people since then of what's really happening is that, the farming community is there, the manufacturing community is there, the agricultural community is there. This isn't about anything other than a serious cash crop in changing the dynamics of the economy in Michigan, at least, and have an impact on a better economy across the country and worldwide. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Right, Everett?
Exactly. Excuse me. It's the only reason MIHEMP exists is industrial hemp. That's the only cause we fight for, and it's been a tough battle, but it's been worth it. We've come a long way in this state compared to a lot of the other states.
All right, listen, we got a couple minutes left. I want to take a break, and then we're going to get back into the cannabis cure cancer. But in final, both of you, if you would, explain what you know about how hemp products are being, if at all, grown in the United States. What is the Colorado program doing? I understand they're growing it independent of research, that they're actually farming it. And are all the products that are hemp that are on the shelves across the United States, are they all imports?
Yes. The one in Colorado, he did grow a crop. It was 60 acres. He did sell it to Dr. Bronner's soaps and sold their, different parts to different companies. But so you might find some American hemp in Dr. Bronner's soaps or some clothing. From my understanding, he even sold the roots of the crops, so they had to harvest it by hand, which is a very labor-intensive process.
Is it not true that some areas in Colorado are allowing for? I mean, that's the one situation that there's in others where they're actually farming hemp right now and/or producing food products locally or in the dispensaries. No.
Not that I'm aware of. No. Not on the industrial hemp side.
Did you guys
They can be importing the oil from Canada like what other companies are doing. It's legal to import the products as long as it has no THC in it. So, you can go to a health food store right now and purchase any one of the health food items that has hemp in it. And hemp oil is just one of them, and what people are doing is buying it by the gallon and then adding small amounts to their products. And they can get away with that legally here in the United States.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, did you guys run into any Canadian lobbyists up there at the legislature from the hemp big hemp farms that have the American contracts?
I didn't in Lansing. Did you in Washington, Steve?
No, I didn't run into anyone except for the Farm Bureau in Michigan State that actually spoke to me. Other than there was a gentleman that is doing research with the University of Michigan. And we're in contact now, and we're going to be talking with Representative Daley over some of this.
All right, final thought. Do you think that there's a legitimate challenge to when hemp becomes an industrial crop, that there will actually be a challenge between farming it amongst the citizens versus a more commercial, centralized growing? And answer this also: can it be grown inside, or can it be grown in a greenhouse, or does it have to be outside? Only outside of a greenhouse. Answer all seven.
Well, you would want to do it by the acre, by thousands of acres is what you want to plant this by, because once they start doing the research on it, we're going to start making fuel out of this, a biodiesel fuel. So it'll take up just as much as what we can plant. And it's a rotation crop.
I understand.
But it'll help the small farmer. The small farmers that have 10 acres would be able to take their crop in, even if they harvested it by hand, they could still take that into a processing center and sell it.
Just kind of like we did with tobacco when I was a kid. They contracted out to sell. We could grow tobacco and take it to the warehouse on the harvest and sell it at a public auction. Would probably be one scheme they could set up for.
Fascinating.
Well, listen, I think this is exciting times. I hope we can expand the scientific research. I think that, but again, just to be in position alone would be. But I do think it's important thing we should all, try to do whatever we can influentially. I wonder what that costs. Just kidding. All right, listen, guys, it has been fantastic talking to you. What a fascinating topic. What an exciting time. And I know there's a lot more battling ahead, but I know it's gonna go in the right direction. I look forward to talking to you guys in the future. And Steve Sharpe, are you announcing? Did you already do this? Do we want to?
Well, I'm going to be turning my paperwork in on Monday to run for the state representative seat for the 65th district. And I'm going to be running on this hemp issue because some people say it's a single issue campaign, but hemp takes care of a lot of our problems. A lot of our problems, from health. You have the housing industry. You have roads, which is a major thing. And some of this research can be done by testing it right here in Michigan. We can already get these products. We don't even have to wait to grow it. We can already purchase this from other countries. So, I mean, it's some of that type of stuff that we have to start thinking outside of the box. Why do we have to wait just to grow it? We can start testing right now. So we just need to get some manufacturing back here to think that way.
Hey, well, congratulations on your candidacy. That's great.
What exciting news. What exciting news.
It is. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be hard.
And Rep. Shirkey's going to run for the Senate?
Correct.
Okay, as is Rep.
I believe
Daly.
that is the 16th district.
Do we know our Attorney General, with our Attorney General's announcing his candidacy for the second term, do we know it, or has his position on industrial hemp been revealed?
I do not. Not yet, but I will ask him. At least I'm going to send them an email over it. I've already had a discussion in their office over it. But it was over the legalization of cannabis at the same time, so they were just kind of having fun.
Well, of course, there's still the pharmaceutical.
We were both having fun.
From my understanding, he has stock in Dow Chemical, so he's not real in favor of industrial hemp. I can't say, positively, but I have heard that theory.
Well,
but until we actually hear from him, I do not know.
In any event, it'll be an interesting ride, and thanks for your guys' hard work. And seriously, I really want to hear back from you frequently and often. Anything that we can do to help, don't hesitate to call. And
okay.
Have a great evening, and we look forward to talking to you.
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
All
Enjoy your evening, gentlemen.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you,
Everett.
gentlemen.
Okay. And, of course, that was Steve Sharpe and Everett Swift of Michigan Hemp. We're going to take a little break and come back after that. I think we're going to get into episode 3 of the Does Cannabis Cure Cancer? Who's waiting in the wings, Jamie?
I think we should have Gersh, Peanut Butter, and John, hopefully.
We're going to check our queue here in a second and start talking about cannabis curing cancer. Before that, we'll take a quick break. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, and we will be...